Hey, true believers, Englentine here. Every comic book collector has an origin story. Every comic book collector has that first comic that dragged them in and said, this is it. This is your life. This is the story of mine. Now, the older listeners and viewers have seen this before. I apologize. I had to re-record it. I love this video, and the sound was horrible in the original, so I decided to redo it. For those of you who it's new to, by all means, I hope you enjoy. For those of you who've seen it before, I hope you enjoy also. I was born with a comic book in my hand. Now, not really, of course, because that would have made the papers, and I would be a lot more famous. But what I'm saying is I don't remember a time where I started reading comics. I just always did. And I remember my brother had all of these Legion of Superhero Treasury editions. Treasury editions are these big magazine-sized comic books. I don't think they make them anymore. They should, because they're awesome, and it would be entertaining. But I love these things. I love the heroes. I loved looking at the colors. Just the stories were awesome. But I don't remember when starting. I loved this particular one. I cut the hell out of this one and pasted it on the wall. You want to know how to piss off a family? One, cut up your older brother's comics, destroying it forever so he couldn't read it, and then paste it to a wall so you absolutely destroy any chance of your parents getting a deposit back from the apartment complex you're renting from. And even though I would say Wildfire was my favorite superhero at the time, and Pulsar Stargrave, yeah, that Pulsar Stargrave, ladies and gentlemen, was my favorite villain, I can't really say I was a collector at the time. However, when we went to the library, I do remember picking up a lot of the Golden Age collections. They would have these books filled with Golden Age stories, and they were interesting, colorful, entertaining. Give me the Spectre. Love the Spectre, the Flash. And my favorite was Plastic Man. Easily Plastic Man's the best of the Golden Age. When I was a little kid, of course. But even though I love these Golden Age characters, I can't really say they made me into a comic book collector. I mean, I loved reading them, but when I had my own money, I went out and I bought the Harvey comics, the Richie Rich, the Casper, Little Devil. These are the ones I searched for, and I lived for it. I loved going to the shop and go to try to find any of these characters. They were entertaining. I didn't even know about the comic collector mindset until my brother and his friends were forced to take me to a comic shop, Enterprise 1701. I had $1 in my hand, and I picked myself up Justice League of America, number 153, because I knew that Ultra was going to join Pulsar Stargrave in the pantheon of greatest villains ever. And then one day I carried a wagon full of bottles to the stop and go, and I saw that they had a sale on comic books on their comic book racks, a lot of old comics. Now this is something that kids today don't know about. You know, you gather a whole bunch of bottles, they give you a dime for every one. As a matter of fact, I remember we found a whole bunch of bottles in one place, and it ended up being the same shop we sold them to, so we sold the shop their own bottles back. It's just great. It was an easy way for a kid to make money, and the sale was 10 cents an issue, so I got a lot of comics. It's a long time ago, so honestly, I don't remember every comic book that I picked up. I do know I had some of those Harvey comics and some Warlord. I remember Arak, Son of Thunder, Tales of the Green Lantern Corps, but there was one book that I read and said, wow, that was really good. I now have to go and find as many issues of this I could. So on my bike and back to the stop and go to get Adventure Comics number 479, The Return of Dial H for Hero. Now, I didn't know this was the return or the first issue of or anything like that. I just read it and I found, wow, these are kids. These are actual kids. See, the X-Men were supposed to be teenagers, but they really acted like adults. The Chris Claremont run is brilliant, but that's the case. And that's why I could relate to these two characters here a lot better. And one of the best parts about this book was that the heroes and villains were created by readers. So you could send in a submission and they would say, hey, I'm Mega Boy. And it would be written, you know, okay, Englentine from Orlando, Florida. And the funny thing is while I was doing this video, I thought, you know what? I'm going to look somebody up. So I found the Red Death, that's a character in this book, found the name of the guy on Facebook and said, hey, did you create Red Death for Dial H for Hero? He said, yes. We had a great conversation about the whole thing. And I said, well, did you get anything? And he said he got a t-shirt that says he created, you know, and that was really cool. He said he wore it to tatters, And we laughed about that because now, of course, in the collector's mindset, you would put it in a frame. And I can't help but think, and he even said, so I don't have to just imagine, that he had a great time wearing the shirt. You know, so I don't know which way would have been better. But I am happy to learn that it was real. But we didn't really have that collector's mindset back then. Now, of course, everybody, I'm sure there's an exception to the rule. There were collectors back then. But we read our comics. We enjoyed them. And for this video, I reread this comic. And it is so stupid. It really is. It really is. And the characters, you know, all respect to the dude who created the Red Death, but the superheroes are just kind of stupid as well. But man, it's a lot of fun. It is tons of fun to read this. One element of fun is just to see that among all these, what I assume are 12-year-olds sending in submissions, you had Harlan Ellison, the famous sci-fi writer. Now, I actually put in a submission. It was called The Baseball Boy. God, it's like, he had an electrified bat, and the baseballs were stuff like, this is an ice ball, and it throws and froze people, or, you know, just a grenade, you know, that kind of stuff. And it was rightfully rejected. I remember as a visual, I traced the Topps baseball guy and sent it in. I don't know why they wouldn't have thought of taking my character. For those not in the know, there were two characters, Vicky Grant and Chris King, and they would have these dials, and when trouble came, they dialed HERO, turned into a superhero. And when it was time to stop, if they finished their mission before an hour, OREH, because they could only be a superhero for an hour. And it was fun. I mean, it was really good fun. No pretense to it. This is a pre-crisis, of course, you know, Crisis on Infinite Earths. This is a pre-crisis comic book. So it really was comic book for comic book's sakes. Yeah, there was some continuity to it, but it wasn't as rigid as it became. And that was just part of the enjoyment of it. And that was it. This is the comic book that hooked me. This is the one that made me think, okay, well, what else do they have? Now, granted, like I said, I bought a whole bunch of comics. So I read Tales of the Green Lantern Corps. Well, the Green Lantern, he's in Justice League, and he talks to these characters, and they talk to them, and all of a sudden I'm reading everything trying to just catch up, and who are these people? They're amazing, and I'm enjoying it. And then I read Teen Titans, number 10. This is the second appearance of Deathstroke, and this is the Teen Titans with George Perez and Marv Wolfman. There were killer toys, I remember, and mind you, I'm not looking it up because I really want to focus on this book, the one that started it for me. The Dial H for Hero was really the one that hooked me. Now, granted, like I said, Teen Titans got me onto the boat, but this was the one that hooked me, and I wanted to focus on this. However, man, like I said, you gotta respect your roots, and the George Perez, Marv Wolfman Teen Titans, that's as much to do with it as anything else. Cyborg, Robin, Kid Flash, Starfire. Dang, talk about something that kind of can affect a preteen kid. But anyway, yeah, this is the one that started me off. That made me just want to continue to get the next issue, the one after that, the one after that. And in all honesty, if you're tired of the politics and the cynicism in comic books today, by all means, go for a pre-crisis. Seriously, you get a lot of these really cheap, and they are entertaining and they're enjoyable. Get the Dial H for Hero and enjoy a whole bunch of superheroes made by a bunch of young, silly kids, except for the Silver Fog in this issue, which was created by famous sci-fi writer Harlan Ellison. I think that's just freaking brilliant, by the way. I can only imagine that they didn't have enough submissions, so he jumped in. I never knew a time, as I said before, that I wasn't reading comic books. And I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy about my upbringing. And yes, I went through the whole thing with the parents saying, well, you gotta read some novels. I'm glad they did, because by reading those novels, I got an ear and an eye for actual literature. And that's good, because then you can recognize what's good and bad in comic books, because the best comic books are written like that. And in the end, I'm very happy and very glad that I took that wagon of bottles to the Stop and Go and got a big stack of comics, because that, like I said, may have gone any other direction. I do remember when I rode my bike back to get the other issues, it was raining. And that tells you that I cared more about reading than collecting, because no way in hell would I carry out a bag of comics in the rain these days. But that's my experience. What was yours? What do you think is the first thing that dragged you into collecting? Not just casually reading, but what was it that made you have to go back and get the next issue? And if you do have a casual reading beginning, let me know about that. I told you mine, tell me yours. And let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to click like and share, subscribe, make sure that your notifications are on all notifications, and ring that bell. Don't forget to go on over to Ko-Fi or to Patreon if you want to support the channel, and commission a video if you'd like. That's always fun as well. Mostly I want to hear those origin stories, though. So anyway, thank everybody who's already done that, everybody who's saying, hey, wait a second, yeah, this is my story right here. And to everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching.